But I will tell you, was reading LA Times and our friend Melissa Chatang blowing up, calling the fashion industry out. She said quite plainly, if you say you're ready, then be ready and let's actually see it. So without further ado, our friend Melissa Chatang in the building.
Melissa, hello.
I feel like you stepped up into your power in this. You shared some pretty intimate moments. You talked about your own experience, and then you said, if you really mean this to be more than a trend, show me. And here are some ways you'll signal that.
Yeah, I feel like we've been in this peripheral, like outside of the room, or like we're waiting to get into the club. Maybe we see all the cool kids passing by, but we've never had a seat at the table. And I think, excuse me, with everything happening right now, it's imperative that the old regime kind of change and able to bring Black creatives into the conversation, into powerful leadership roles, and we evolve.
Yeah.
Melissa, who's doing it right? Is there somebody to look up to in the industry that's doing it right?
Well, I mean, I love Michelle Obama, and even though she's not exactly in fashion, I started my career in corporate healthcare. She was as well, and transitioned to sharing her power with purpose to the world. So it's looking at it from a platform perspective. I love what's happening at Fenty, Olivier at Balmain. Jason Bolden is crushing it as a stylist. I think there's some people that are paving the way that I'm really proud and inspired by, but there's still so much work to be done.
You said in the piece, you said it often feels like it's air kisses and politeness when we find ourselves at these crossroads. But at some point, when we're talking about diversity, at some point it's got to be more about inclusion. It's got to be more about inviting as opposed to checking some box.
Yes, I felt like that at Fashion Week, where I'm there, I'm sharing a seat in front row, think I've made it, and it's not even a full seat. It just felt like that's the parallel of how I felt in the real world, in the real life. And then seeing no women representation coming down the runway, no women of color except for one. I mean, this is a thing that's been happening again and again. Now, it seems like more Black models are trending, but even within the influencer space.
Yeah.
Advertisers need to put their money where their mouths are. Black women have the power to spend and they're ready to open up their wallets, but they need to see themselves reflected on the pages. I've been so frustrated by now it's tokenism to say we support Black Lives Matter, but when you look through a brand's feed, you've seen one Black girl in 6 months represented. That's not representation. And now it's time to stop. I think with the protests, with everything just kind of blowing up, it's almost a way to start at ground zero and really analyze how we can improve. And I'm really impressed by CFDA putting out a statement that they want to include more Black designers and support Black creatives, have a mentorship program, but that needs to be across the board in all aspects. And I'm very proud to have worked with Access Hollywood. You guys have been always inclusive, always supporting women of color in the segments, women of curves in segments as well. So if everyone can do what you guys are doing, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
That's because you're a star, Melissa. You've always been a star. And I was thinking about it, you've always been so inclusive with size. I'm thinking about all the fashion shows we've done. How important is it to see yourself represented on the runway?
It's so important. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, attended 12 years of Catholic school. I was the only Black girl. I danced classical ballet. I was the only Black girl. I never saw anyone like me until Misty Copeland came out. I was like a breath of fresh air because I was the only one in the room. I've always been the only one in the room. And I don't want future generations to experience that self-loathing, that I felt ashamed of my color, ashamed of my size, ashamed of my creativity. I remember when I wanted to be a TV host. It's not going to happen because no one looks like you on television. And I'm happy to be proving them wrong, as well as inspiring future generations to go for their goals. But this needs to happen now, and it starts with the conversation starts at the table. Yes, we might be featured on the runway, but are we the decision makers when it comes to marketing? Are our brands elevated? Are they featured in the big publications? No, they haven't. And there's always this uphill battle, and it's just time for a change.
You see brands like Prada and Gucci make massive missteps, right? It seems like not only social media, but even media pummels them, right? And then they start these inclusion initiatives. Gucci, I think, even quite famously included Dapper Dan and really build a program from their designers, like apprenticeship on up. Is this something, a kind of model that you want to see in other facets of the industry?
Absolutely, but I appreciate the inclusion initiative, but if we were there to begin with, it wouldn't even gotten this far.
Right.
I don't want it to be like
the reaction.
Now we need to have one black decision maker in the room. It needs to be seen as you guys shouldn't even be something that was put out there, because if the powers that be that assess the campaign and assess the designs would know that wasn't appropriate. So as much as I love this effort to have these panels, we should be better than that. We should be the decision makers in the room. So it didn't even get that far.
Yeah.
Melissa, you're such a talented family. What about the article your husband wrote called Hey White People? Tell everybody the message.
Basically, my husband is Caucasian, and he talked about his experience worrying about me and being out there in our interracial marriage, and also acknowledging his white privilege and stepping into his power to fight racism and be more vocal. Because often we feel like people don't want to speak up because the joke might be funny or it might affect their bottom line. But all of these things have led to the situation with George Floyd.
Right.
All these little microaggressions have gotten us to this place. And he addressed it in his article, and I'm so proud that he used his voice as well.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where it is going to seem like this, and I just want to put this out there for people who might be feeling like, well, I mean, every conversation is going to have to be a correction, or every situation. Yes, that's how practice makes perfect.
Yes, it won't be perfect initially, but it's practice, it's these conversations, it's using our platforms.
Exactly.
Melissa, before we go, and thank you so much, what was the book your dad gave you when you graduated college?
It was the Susie Orman book on finance and investing.
Well, then you don't want to go anywhere, because coming up, we've got the financial expert of financial experts. Susie Orman is in the building.